Duke Ellington.
Yeah, like Duke Ellington, like,
Wow.
where he's writing like, like these complicated, like orchestrated pieces as a 14-year-old or something like that. You know what I mean? I really don't know his story, but but that was kind of part of it. He was very advanced.
But maybe the story is that he's unknown to the white audiences, but he's playing clubs in Harlem to black audiences.
Yeah, but we're talking about a time it was unheard of.
Yeah.
That there. What do you mean? There is an audience which is white, and then I guess they make there's colored people buy records too. But they're literally have it's a different record label. Like the record label has a different name for the one that they sell. That
completely segregated. Sell. Right. No affiliate. So on the face, there's no face of the company. There's no affiliation that they're secretly making money off of to selling stuff to a blind.
I mean, you're spinning that it's much more conspiratorial than it really is. I mean, the first record companies were actually, they made phonographs, and phonographs were made by furniture companies. So It was just a way you made records because you wanted
to sell the phonograph record.
Yeah, but it was a piece of furniture. It literally was a piece of furniture. So it was like the big radio and the phonograph, right? So they they literally. The furniture stores were recording companies, and that's what they would like famously Robert Johnson, they put him in a hotel room. It's like this guy would show up with the tape recorder and parade in the we're gonna record the locals here for the colored label,
right.
But anyway, so Hammond, but so literally he's bringing this music to Carnegie Hall. But that was a big thing that he did. It was called like from something to swing, and he's connecting.
What year is that, John?
38, 39, something like that. Right. And it was,
so it's pre-war stuff.
Oh yeah. So I wish I could remember the name, but it's something to swing. And he's essentially making the connection live of like, this is the music from the fields and how it's become swing music. Like it's right. So he has this, and somewhere he kind of like loses his magic touch or whatever, or he quits, or he's not interested, or no one wants to hear, like sometime in the 50s. And he
falls out of favor to other.
And he comes back. Well, and he comes back. Mitch Miller has him come back to Columbia Records in the the late 50s or mid 50s. And
it's funny because we revisit, we go back in time and we talk about that stuff, and then you come back into Mitch Miller and you're like, that guy, because I know him from, Sing Along with Mitch kind of thing. And it's like that
parody guy. On the Flintstones is how I know him.
Now it has a little bit more weight, where you're like, right, that guy.
Yeah, but Mitch Miller is the guy.
It's crazy.
Mitch Miller, who is the guy, because remember Sinatra was on Columbia at first, and as his his teeny bopper years kind of wane off, and he's like sort of hitting the skids, and Mitch Miller's like, come on, we'll make some more records. He's like, here, and those are those records where you hear Frank Sinatra singing like Old MacDonald, and like you're just like. There's this period of a couple of years where Sinatra is just trying, like, how much is that doggy in the window kind of stuff, just novelty records. That's all Mitch Miller doing A&R, and
so it is Nelson Riddle that puts Sinatra back on the map, right? He's enduring the cheese from Mitch Miller when that happens.
So that's the thing. So he gets dropped. It doesn't work. He gets dropped. He has no record label.
Look at that. I didn't know that.
Right. And he's also having
dropped. Frank Sinatra had been dropped at one point.
Absolutely. He had completely fallen on hard times, and he was begging. And essentially what he did was he begged his way to get a role in From Here to Eternity.
Right. It's what it's parodied in The Godfather. Yeah.
And so he begs his way in. He like literally desperately goes around in Hollywood and begs. And I believe Ava Gardner is working all of her angles, and she's a real star at the time. And he gets the role and wins the Academy Award. And at the same time, he signs to Capitol Records around this time too. And that's when he starts making the records he wants to make. And that's
how long is that fallow period for him?
I want to say somewhere like just post-war to 51, 50, maybe 54. Like it might be 5 years. Which
in this industry, in that industry at that time could be a lifespan, 5 years.
Yeah, you think about it. That's when even putting out 2 albums a year, it's like you're just cranking it out. But yeah, there's not
Yesterday's news, Frank, hit the bricks. You're not selling anything.
And when I say his fallow period, it's like they would give him, they used to have these 15-minute TV shows. Like in the beginning of TV, it would be like, Colgate presents
the
Frank
Texas
Sinatra, or Top of the Hits featuring the vocals of Frank Sinatra. And they would try to do those, and none of those did really well. Like, it would if I remember correctly, they might have we're going to give you a show and it's going to be opposite Milton Berle. And Milton Berle was it was just like you could hear the TV's the channel turning to CBS at 8 o'clock.
Yeah, Milton Berle was huge.
Around the country. Yeah. So
60 Minutes had Tony Bennett on.
I saw that. Yeah.
And you guys saw it, right?
I did not see it. I just saw the preview for it.
I mean, so he's speaking of him. I mean, he's his career starts he's in his 20s, and they basically followed him for his last show. He's 95, does his last show. I mean, that is an incredible amount. That's incredible.
The singing 70 from Queens.
Yeah, a 70 plus year career. If we want to get back to this Mr. Hammond fella, yeah. How does he's in the 50s?
Well, then he invents the organ, and the rest is history.
Steals it from that Farfisa fella.
But he actually has a son too, John Hammond Jr. Who's
Albert. No, right.
That's I actually Albert Hammond is related to a musician, but I don't think he's in the lineage of this Hammond.
But you're right. He does have a son who the two of them work together. He's an adult son working with his dad, right? Those guys were the guys I thought were looking for Jimmy in before Chas Chandler finds him.
I don't know that story.
I think there's a story there for you then, John. I think there's Jimi Hendrix is being looked for by those guys, but he picks up and goes from playing the same kind of haunts that Dylan is playing in 61. So he's playing the Cafe Wah and places like that down in the Village. Mm-hmm. And then and everybody's just like, this is the greatest guitar player we've ever seen. And he packs up and, I think Chas Chandler sees him, right? And they leave, but he is missed by according to one biographer, and I can't remember the book and I read it a while ago, but it was by days, maybe weeks at most, those guys were looking for him and he had already gone over to Britain.
I met Jimi Hendrix in 1966 when he was hanging out in New York without a gig and without literally anything. He was stranded in New York and I got to hang out with him, and he asked me if I could get him a gig. So I put a band together with him as the lead guitar player, and we played a club called the Cafe A Go-Go, where he was discovered by Chas Chandler and brought over to England to record. About a year later, he returns to the U.S. with a hit recording page out in Europe, but no radio here would play that song, and he wound up on tour with the Monkees.
Who's that from? Who's that?
It's a quote from John Hammond.
There it is.
There was a story, and this is going back 35 years ago, reading it in a Guitar Player magazine. Les Paul and his son are driving into the city, as they're known to do. They stop at there's a club on Route 17 in Lodi, or there used to be down in that area. And so they stop in to check out what's going on. And Hendrix's band, whoever he was playing for at the time, 1961 or whatever, is playing to try and get a gig. And they, he comes back out, and the son is talking to the dad, and he's like, "Oh my God, you got to see this guitar player. He's awesome. He's amazing."
This is the story, by the way, John. The story that Tony is telling is, I'm thinking it's Hammond and his son.
It's Les Paul.
And it's actually Les Paul and his son.
Yeah.
And it's not in Lodi. They said it was in Hackensack, Tony. According to I read.
Okay. I'll give you that one.
I really want to be in Oakland knowing that's for Les Paul.
Right. But it makes sense that he's in Oakland coming into the city. He's going down that down 17. So anyway, the location is not confirmed, but the son comes out and he's like, Dad, you got to see this guy. He's amazing. And he's like, okay, we got to go in the city, take care of business. We'll come back and check it out. Well, they later on in the night or the day or whatever, they get back there and nobody knows who those guys were. They came in and auditioned, didn't get the gig or whatever. They're gone and they can't find out who he is. He later on tells the story to when he is found and he's popular. He hears that story and Jimi Hendrix is like, he's like, you mean I could have got discovered like 5 years sooner? So it's like, it's wild that even a guy like that had those coincidences.
But right, he must have been around that time though, and the New Jersey connection had to be the Isley Brothers from Teaneck, right? The Isley Brothers of Teaneck.
Sounds good.
Yeah. So all together now, the Isley Brothers, Twist and Shout, Beatles.
Right.
Nice.
All ties back.
Yep, it all connects in 6 degrees.
Yeah. 6, it's like 1.
Well, there you go. Yeah.
Beatles.
Yep. And those Isley Brothers, one of the great guitar sounds ever, Eric Isley.
And that was like the third version of the Isley Brothers, right? I mean, those guys from Twist and Shout, you're talking about the Who's That Lady with the
That's the sound, yeah.
That's literally like 10 years later.
Yeah, if not, right. But it's like you said, 3 iterations of the group later.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so that's the best thing about brother bands is like they really don't break up. Like you can't it's like you can't disown everybody. I mean, I guess it happens, but
you just luckily have like a younger brother to come in, and it's like, oh, okay, we got a younger brother. We're gonna
brothers and
replace him out and form a new sound and update our sound or whatever. Boy, this John Hammond story gets bigger and bigger. Well, has he discovered Bob Dylan yet in where we're at?
No, but it's funny. What makes me, I'm right now in skeptical John Hammond mode. Like it's like, because the way all of the documentation they're going through about it, it's like John Hammond is like him. He's like listening to the tapes from the first album, and John Hammond will be like, he's listening to it, and Dylan's doing this like this amazing take that's better than the one on the record, and John Hammond goes, Bob, you're popping your peas. We got to do this again. And he's like that anal, and to a point where Bob starts saying, it's like, it's my S's, isn't it, John? Like he's disrupting, how like you now like a producer would never go like, they're killing it right now, right? I'm not gonna, like, it's not perfect, but the magic is happening. And John Hammond would be like, you popped a pea, we're doing it over again. And so that's why Dylan essentially fires him. Like he doesn't let Hammond produce the next record. Like he that's when he moves on. I think that's when he goes to Bob Johnston. So it's like there's a lot of, it sounds like Hammond helps build the myth, right, of himself. And I think part of it is because I think he really did it in, with the Billie Holiday and the Count Basie and right. But I think this, it's like, yes, A&R people are very talented and they could find things and they could create things, but a lot of time it is luck, So,
but you would never find any of those guys saying what you just said, because they all want to believe it is because of their brilliance that they helped create that magic, right?
Well, everybody I know at a record company, if they were at a record company when so-and-so got signed or so-and-so got big or whatever, it's always like, yeah, well, I worked with blah, blah, blah. It's like, oh, it's like everyone tries to take credit for a hit. It's like friggin' Clive Davis takes credit for, and like, because he worked at he ran Columbia, right? He was a lawyer at Columbia Records, and he ran Columbia Records, and he got fired from Columbia Records, and he started Arista. Arista, he gets a little more credit for it because that literally was his thing. But it was like,
what did he get fired for? Do we know?
Yeah, he got fired for trying to expense his son's bar mitzvah.
That's brilliant. You cannot overlook a tidbit like that when you're telling a story.
We're talking like it's like an early 70s $25,000 party.
I'm sure, which would be like 100-200 grand nowadays, right? Yeah, that's great. Don't worry, honey. I'm going to expense it at work. My boss, he doesn't know anything. I'm going to take care of it all.
Bruce Linval was there.
That is a great story.
Absolutely, he was there.